So before we recite the refuge and Bodhisattvas prayer, maybe we take a few moments to generate the Bodhisattva intention for being here. Now, when often this precious human life meet the Dharma and know the Dharma a little bit, I must utilize and practice the Dharma as much as possible. In order to liberate oneself and all sentient beings from not only temporary problems and suffering, but in order to liberate from the very root of all the suffering and problem. Not only temporarily, but permanently. And to achieve and actualize not only temporary happiness, true lasting ultimate happiness for oneself and for all sentient beings. And that in order to liberate all sentient beings from all their suffering and cause of suffering, I must achieve fully enlightenment as soon as possible. To achieve the fully enlightenment, I must cultivate all the path, bhumis, all the spiritual realizations. And for that, I need to practice. And to practice, I need to remind myself all the practice while listening to the Dharma. And not only just listening, but trying to implement as much as possible. Okay. Then we do the refuge prayer. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create to listen to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodang sogi shonam la, chanchu badu dane kapuj, dagi shushe gibe sonam, lola penje sangye luba. Sangye chodang sogi shonam, chanchu badu dane kapuj, dagi shushe gibe sonam, lola penje sangye luba. Okay. So last week we started the 37 Bodhisattva practice by the great Bodhisattva Tome Sangho. And within that, we finished the introductions, and then we just started the first two Bodhisattvas practice. And the second line we discuss about where he discussed about giving up the homeland, and even though it is not possible for all of us to give up the homeland and to go away, but again, we try to find, in whatever our situation, we try to find and make it more conducive conditions to practice the Dharma, and to create more favorable conditions to practice the Dharma, and where we try to create a condition where, where our minds are not disturbed by those negative emotions so easily and quickly because of being in certain environment, and so trying to kind of create an environment and where, the environment doesn't become so toxic that the delusions arises so often and so quickly and so easily, So that is what we try to do as much as we can according to our situation, our conditions. Okay, and then coming to the verse number 3, here, by avoiding bad objects, that is more unfavorable conditions, disturbing emotion gradually decrease. Without distraction, virtuous activities naturally increase. With a clarity of mind, convictions in the teaching arises. Cultivate seclusion, that is the practice of Bodhisattva. So when we try to create a better environment, create more favorable conditions in whatever way according to our situations, and when there is, creating some space for ourselves, not being too busy all the time with so many things, with so many, so just within our own situation, we try to create that kind of space. And, if we create that kind of space for ourselves, then if we don't have to deal with so many people all the times, because we engage with so many people just by being busy, and then, disturbing emotions does not arise so easily. Whether it's an attachment, whether it's anger, resentment, whether it's jealousy, all these negative emotions will gradually decrease. In a sense, it will not manifest and arises because we keep distant from the object that give rise to those delusions. Because at the very beginning, when we don't have strong Dharma practice, when we don't have strong tool to deal with the delusions, the best is to keep distant from the object that give rise to the delusions. Of course, if we have a strong Dharma practice, if we have a really good tool, then of course, being in a place where there's more that give rise to more delusion is better. It gives you more opportunity to really practice and apply. But at the very beginning, when we don't have those tools, then it's better to kind of create an environment where the delusion, to keep away from the object that keep the delusion from arising too often, too easily, too strong, So through that, then, such disturbing emotion gradually decrease or not arise or not manifest so often or strongly. And also we will have less distractions. Physical distractions, mental distractions. Physical distractions, we become too busy going here and there, everywhere, and then we don't have really time to study and practice. You know, even you have a wish to practice because you feel like you need to go there, you need to go here and there, and then your life, whatever time you have, you become so busy with that. And then you get exhausted after going here and there, and then even you want to study and practice. Even if you have little time, you are already exhausted. Difficult to find a time. And even when we find time, then we are exhausted. We can concentrate very well because of the tired, exhaustion. And not only that, then, also your mind get distracted from what you have heard, what you have seen. Because we engage with so many, then we hear different things. We see different things. And then things that was something we don't like, that disturb your mind, or things that you like and that give rise to attachments, or things you see that then all these negative emotions become very active. But when you are free from that, when you have less of that, then those, when you hear less, when you see less, then those negative emotions does not arise so often. And so even when you're trying to meditate or practice, your mind doesn't get so distracted by those different thoughts. Otherwise, even you try to meditate, then, because of something you have heard, because something you saw that disturbed your mind, and that could arise in that moment. And your mind, you cannot stop that mind, And so you are trying to meditate, you are trying to practice, your mind is not there because your mind is being preoccupied with different thoughts that has, because of something, so that is, and so then, when you don't have those much thought arising, then there's less distraction, physical distraction, and there's less mental distractions. And with that less distractions, then our virtuous activity naturally increase our practice. We have more time to practice the Dharma. We have more time to engage in the virtuous things, practice. And whenever we try to practice, meditate, whatever we do, we are able to do better with less distractions. We are able to do better with less distractions. The practice, whatever practice we do, become more powerful, more stronger, more effective. And when your practice becomes more stronger, powerful, and less distraction, then you have more clarity in your mind. And also with that clarity and with your practice, then you have more convictions in the teachings, and the practice arises, more convictions and more, in your teachings, in the teaching, in the practice arises, So that helps such environment help our practice. And when it help our practice, then we are able to, as our practice get better, stronger and stronger, then, then you can be any places, then that wouldn't affect you because you have the tools, you have the tools, even you are busy with things, it wouldn't disturb your mind. It wouldn't disturb your mind. Whatever you see, whatever you hear, whatever things are happening, it wouldn't disturb because you have the practice, meditation, the tools to deal with that. But beginner, when we don't have that strong practice and tool, our mind can very easily affect it. And therefore, that is why here he explained that. That is why Shantideva also said that. That is why Buddha left the palace in the forest for 6 years. That is why all the great masters, all of them found time in their life, for a certain period of time to really focus on their practice. And then once they have developed that, then they can come to the world and the society and serve the society. But when your mind is not strong, you harm others more than you are able to help others. Sometimes you have the intention to help, but how much help you do, actually you hurt them more because your mind is disturbed. When your mind is disturbed, then you started to think negative and you started to say bad things, negative things. You started to act negatively. So one help you do and 5 harm you do. Even though, so that is why that is the reason why all starting from Buddha and all the great masters, why they emphasize so much for the beginners, unless someone is already high level, then that is different matter. And then fourth one, so third one is talking about the benefit of living in more seclusions or more kind of favorable conditions, in whatever way we can. And the reasons, to give up homeland and then trying to live in a seclusions or favorable conditions, more quiet, less busyness, is to develop our mind, to develop love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, so that we can be benefit to the sentient beings. That is the reasons. The reason is to cultivate true love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, and engage in the bodhisattva practice, so that we can become more enlightened, so we can be more benefit to others, and eventually to achieve fully enlightenment, to become the most benefit to each and every sentient beings. So we have to, the motivations in that always, the intense and motivation always that. Because this is the bodhisattva practice. The bodhisattva practice is always the intention and motivation is to be benefit to others, to help others, to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of other sentient beings. Then fourth one is, meditations on impermanent, and through meditation on impermanent, then letting go of being attachment to pleasure of this life, comfort of this life, because when we are unable to let go of the comfort and pleasure of this life, and when we get very attached to that, then then our practice does not become pure. It's hard to have true practice and have to have pure practice, because whatever we do will be diluted by that, worldly concerns, attachments to different things so and so your practice does not become as pure as it can be. Your practice does not become as strong as possible, even when you try to help benefit others, still there is some corner of your mind, you have expectations, conditions for your help, your support. You expect them to respond or react in certain ways. You still have something in this, from some level, there's some expectations and conditions. And so here, as Buddha said in one of the sutras, I don't recall the name of the sutras, but he gave many examples of how everything's always moving and changing, impermanent. Down stories, it says it's like the clouds in the autumns, the clouds comes and go very quickly, you see the clouds in the morning, it seems like there is going to be there might be a rain, and then suddenly all the clouds are gone. And in the morning, you see it's all blue, no clouds, suddenly you see clouds. It's constantly changing, constantly moving, always like that. It's like the waterfall, constantly like that. So, and also he said it's like in a drama, in the drama, the character, they keep on changing all the times, it's never one character, it's kind of changing all the time. So there are many examples that Buddha gave, and so how all these condition phenomena never stay same things, permanent, is ever changing, unstable, unreliable, by nature, comes and goes, and so here giving, and in terms of meditating on impermanent in general, meditating on in general, all condition phenomena are impermanent, ever changing. Not only that, our life is also ever changing. Our life is ever changing all the time. Our body is changing. Our thoughts are changing. And our life changes. And then they come to end to this life. That something that we cannot escape. We have to face the end of our life, what we call death. Whether you want or whether you do not want, no one can escape that. No one has been able to escape, in a samsara, nor we will be able to escape, and so therefore we will also, and not only we will come to the end of this life and face the death, but the most difficult is that we don't know when that is coming. Death is certain, but time of death is so uncertain. We don't know how it is going to come, where is it going to come, how it is going to come, and when it is going to come. Even though we all feel like now, definitely it's not going to come today. I look at my health, and from everything, it seems like there's no way it will come today. And if I say to my friends, colleagues, maybe, I might die today, everyone says, don't talk about that, silly things. There's no way I can guarantee you. They might even say, I can guarantee you will not die. That is how we feel. I feel, everyone around me feel. That is how we feel. But that might be very deceiving, deceptive, very, betraying, cheating, just like everything's, even in our cases, in recent times, nobody thought Rinpoche was, going so fast, Nobody saw that coming. And it's gone, My mom, same way, Nobody thought she was going to die that day, that week, that month. She was just okay. And then in her sleep, she's gone. Same with my father, he just had some surgery and seems just fine, And then one morning, he feels bad and he's gone. And not only it happened to them, that is same, I might feel I might not die, my friend might feel, but never know what might. So that is time, when we are going to die, when we will die is so uncertain. And since when we are going to die is so uncertain, therefore, we have to prepare ourselves as though we could die today. As though we could die today, this week, this month, this year. Because, if we have that awareness, that I could die this year, this month, this week, or even today, we will prepare ourselves from one perspective, we will prepare ourselves better. We will prepare ourselves better. And then even it comes, we have no regret. We are ready because we are prepared. Even it doesn't come, one more day is like a bonus. One more week is like a bonus. One more month, year's bonus to even do more, even to practice more, And so therefore, and also if we have that awareness, a lot of delusion which, stop manifesting or arising, When I feel like I'm not going to die, I'm going to have 10 more life, 10 more years or 20 more years, then a lot of attachment arises. I think, I need this, I have to prepare for this, that for 20 years. This also, we have all kind of list of all what I need, what I want, because we prepare for living that. And then we have a lot of those kind of attachments and running after them and all of that, and the fear of something happening and losing and all of that. If we have awareness, I could die tomorrow, maybe, even you wouldn't have so much fear of losing that anyway. I'm not going to take it that. So what, So I will not be able to take it. I will not be able to own it. So anyway, if I lose that, you wouldn't be so upset and angry, or you wouldn't be so wary and fearful of that, losing that. So, so it can have such a different effect if we do have that realization of awareness, And also in terms of, we get in argument or fight or quarrel or all of that. Again, due to belief again, of long, when we know that, when you have that awareness, I could die today, you could die today, then you feel that it is useless, it's meaningless to engage in all this quarrel and argument and everything when both that person, both yourself, might be no more there tomorrow, And so therefore, so attachments, anger, and all this fear, worry, will not arise so often, so easily, and so intense at the moment. At the moment, those emotions arises because, we are strong, lasting, and permanent. And then what help at the time of death? Only thing that can help at the time of death, after the death, is our Dharma practice. That's all. Whatever virtues we have done, whatever positive imprint that we have created, whatever Dharma we have practiced, that is the only thing that can help at the time and after that, So through meditating on impermanent, and especially dead impermanent of your own life, then we try to generate strong wish to practice the Dharma, not really practice the Dharma, sense of urgency that I need to practice now without postponing it, because we never know when that is coming. And the more focus, even though of course we have to do things because we need to survive, we need to live, necessary, but main focus being the Dharma, instead of Dharma being the kind of hobby thing, like almost like hobby, When I have time, when I have energy, I will do practice. That doesn't become the main in your life. Instead, we make the Dharma main focus of our life and trying to apply that every day. So here, so that is here, loved ones who have long kept companion with part, So our families, friends, teachers, colleagues, students that we have known for how many years, 40, 50 years, 10 years, 15 years, they will part one day. They will be separated from us. Either they go first before us, or we go before them, But, so therefore, since all these loved ones, families, friends, all of them are going to be separate one day anyway, so therefore we shouldn't be so attached to it. If we are attached to it, we will experience more pain, more sufferings when we do separate. Not only we experience more pain and suffering, we also make it more difficult for them. And not only the loved one, wealth created difficulty will be left behind, Even the wealth, whatever, wealth we have, the house, the car, everything that in the house, everything that we may own or that we might have created with so much difficulty, with so much, hard work, sometimes maybe even, engage in unwholesome actions in order to accumulate them, create them, not being honest, and all kinds of things, So even all the wealth that we have created in that moment, that when we die, we will also have to leave that behind. We cannot take one penny. And in one of the, as Buddha said in one of the sutras, when we die, the king and the beggar die same way, empty-handed. Empty-handed, both go empty-handed. And both cannot take anything, one penny, Consciousness, the guest will leave the guest house body, even the body that we have had since the very birth, which were never separated, even we'll have that left behind. So here example giving, the body is like the hotel or the guest house, and the consciousness is like the traveler, So the consciousness come into this body for a certain period of time, and then it will leave. It will not stay there for permanently. It will just continue live, And so therefore, even this body, we have to leave everything behind, And so therefore, when the time comes, no matter how much big family we have, not only big family, loving ones, caring ones, no matter how much friends we have, big circle of friends who love and care, and no one will be able to stop you from dying. No one will be able to stop you from dying. No one will be able to take your pain and sufferings. Even they want to take it, Even they want to take all the pain and suffering because their compassion might be very strong. Even they want to take all your pain, they cannot. You have to experience yourself. The suffering, the pain, the fear, the worry, whatever you have at the time of death, regret, feeling of guilt, whatever different feeling, physical pain, emotional, mental pain, whatever, they cannot. When we die, no matter how much wealth you have, it will not be able to stop you from dying. The only thing it can make you make it physically a little comfort, a little bit more easier. That is all it can do. The wealth cannot take away all the pain, suffering, mental pain, suffering, fear, worries. It cannot stop you, all of those pain, suffering. It cannot stop us or you from dying, Nor this body can stop you from dying, So therefore, that being the case, therefore, we shouldn't be attached to all this comfort and enjoyment and happiness or pleasure of this life, and the objects, external, internal objects that give such comfort or enjoyment or pleasure, because nothing lasts forever. Everything come to end, including our life. And all of those cannot give us real, true peace and happiness. All of them can never give us true inner peace, happiness, and joy, and therefore not being attached to that, giving up attachment to that. If we don't have attachments, then you have less pain, sufferings. You create less suffering to others. When you have attachments, then we get in competitions with others. We get jealousy with others. You know, we wish, instead of wishing and wanting them to have that, you want that for yourself because you're attached to that. You know, so therefore, again, because of that, not only it make you more fearful, more wary, more anxiety, but also we engage in the actions that brings more pain and suffering to others. So then it hurts you, it hurts others. It harms you, it harms others. And therefore, letting go by meditating on impermanence, then, through the awareness of that, understanding and awareness that impermanent, then, we let go of attachment to this life or attachment to eight worldly concerns. And when you don't have any more attachment to eight worldly concern, attachment to the pleasure and comfort of this life, then even when we do practice, the practice becomes much more powerful and much more pure. Okay. So next is last in verse number 2 and 3, it explains about how to avoid unfavorable place or condition, environment, and why we should live in a more conducive environment for the practice. Here now he is talking about how we should keep away from the negative or bad friends, because that could influence again our practice and our Dharma, and then the next verse, then it talk about how we should rely on positive or virtues of good friends, so that is here. When you keep their company, your three poisons increases. Your activities of hearing, thinking, and meditation decline. And that make you lose your love and compassion. Give up bad friends. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. So here is giving up negative or bad friends. And what is negative friends or bad friends? Negative or bad friend doesn't have to come with some kind of form, like the devil, They can come in a very, smiling, welcoming, embracing. They could come in that, So here, what is saying give up bad friend or negative friend? What is negative friend or bad friend that we need to give up? So they here say, when you are in company of them, when around them, being around them, where your three poison increase, your attachment, your anger, your ignorance increases, Because, as mentioned, for the very beginner, we are very fragile and we can be very much influenced by surrounding. If you keep on hearing, how that person is so bad, how that person negative again and again, so many times, even you didn't think that person was bad, over the time, you will start thinking that person must be bad, Just we look, You live in these countries and all the world, but I'm giving these countries. Depending on what news you read, depending on what channel you listen, and people have very different perspective of certain individuals. When you hear again and again and again and again all the time, slowly, it ingrains in your mind, your brain. You know, at the very beginning, even you don't believe it. But over the time, you are not even aware that how it changes. You know, so that is the influence that So when someone keep on talking negative all the time, then you become more negative. And then someone who is upset and angry all the time, and when they keep on, then slowly you become like them. When someone has so much attachment, all keep on saying you need to have, this is so good, this is so wonderful. At the very beginning, even you don't feel like you need, you want, but slowly, when they keep on saying, how good this is, how wonderful this is, why you should have, and all that, and slowly, you might start to feel, oh, I want that. That's how your attachment could increase, your anger could arise, your ignorance, someone keep on saying, oh, your actions have no consequences. Oh, you can say, there's no consequences, and all the time, then you might start to feel, your good actions or bad actions have no consequences. And then you started to, again have, ignoring law of cause and effect, karma, and so forth, So again, that is how three poisonous increases, attachment, anger, and delusions. That is how it increases. And then, also your activity of studying the Dharma, hearing, the activity of studying Dharma, and contemplate, not only you study by hearing, then also, reflecting, thinking on that, and then meditating, contemplating, also slowly start to decline, being around them, Maybe they might say, let's go out, do something. Oh, you are boring, so boring, just meditation, just practice all the time. It's so boring. Get out, just enjoy life. Let's go to the parties. Let's go to the concert. Let's go to this and that. And maybe before you don't miss it, and slowly you started to think, oh, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe my life is boring. Maybe I'm not enjoying my life. And then you started to go to the concert, parties, different events in that. And then you have less and less time for study. And then slowly you get so attached to that. Then, when you hear this concert, you cannot miss it. When you have a sudden big event, you feel like you shouldn't miss it. Because if you miss it, you are missing a big thing. Then it becomes more and more difficult to find time to study, more and more difficult to find time to, reflecting, contemplating, meditating, and that is how you decline, Then from being at the very beginning, totally devoted to the Dharma, then totally you lose interest in Dharma after some time. I've seen that people. I've seen people that, they have certain situation in their life and that draw them to the Dharma because Dharma helped them in those difficult times. And they were very devoted and then I think, they started getting distracted with some other things. And then they get totally distracted in that. And totally then it become more of that, doing different outdoor and different traveling and all this they get so attached to that. Then it all become about traveling, going one country, one place, another place, trying different things. And that become their life. So they don't have time to really Dharma that used to do. They don't have time to go to the teaching. They don't have time to read the Dharma because now the whole circle is all about that, talking about food, talking about travel, talking about all these things. Everywhere you go, they talk about that. It makes you even more interested to do that, try this, to go there. You are surrounded by all people like that because that is how you feel those people who are interested in that. And then even slowly your mind get more in that. And so then, slowly you get less connected with the Dharma. Not because they don't want to be disconnected, but that is naturally how it becomes because of that surrounding. They don't have the intention to disconnect from them. But slowly with that kind of environment, and sometimes they are not even aware that your mind has been so distant from the Dharma and so distant from sometimes some of belief you had before, so such are here saying a friend that you need to distance yourself or give up or distance yourself from such friend. And because this being especially, Mahayana teachings and practice, Bodhisattva practice, and if they, through being around them, they influence you to make you lose your love and compassion. Then, before you are more kind, compassionate person, and then, being around them, because, whatever, discouraging from being kind, compassion, saying, oh, compassion is, and, sometimes people say, like, if you are loving and compassion, it's a sign of weakness, or if you are compassionate and love people who take advantage of you, exploit you, you should be strong. You should be not so weak by having too much compassion, too much love. All kind of there are people who have different opinion and view, and even friends, and you shouldn't support this and help this because this and that, and so from many different point of view, instead of encouraging to grow and increase your love and compassion, instead they discourage from doing that, and instead they encourage or directly, indirectly, to make you lose your love and compassion. Maybe before you have feeling love and compassion for many beings, and then they started to talk how bad that person is, how bad this and that. Slowly, you might lose love and compassion for them because now you started to think bad about those persons. You didn't feel that way before. You can feel love and compassion for that person, but then being around certain friends, then they start to, how bad this and that, all put in your mind. Slowly, you started to feel maybe that person is not nice, bad person, this and that, and slowly, whatever is small love, compassion you had before, you start to lose that. So that is here. So such is here. Such is the bad or negative friends that you should try to keep distant. So when you keep say distant or give up here, it means physically distancing yourself. Mentally not distancing. Here is also a practice. Mentally, you need to keep in your heart close, dear, loving compassions. You don't give up love and compassion. If you distance themselves on the mental level, then you are not practicing Bodhisattva path. The Bodhisattva path is to love and have compassion on all sentient beings, even more to the bad or negative friends, But physically, we try to distance it because you receive the negative influence by being physically too close, So physically, sometimes trying to distance yourself, physically distancing, at the same time, keeping your heart, sending the love, compassion, prayers, wishing all the good while keeping that, but physically trying to keep a little distant and away from that. Because we don't have a strong practice to protect ourselves from being influenced by all these negativities to you. If you have the protections, the wall to protect you from being influenced by them, then that is one thing, And sometimes, even though we feel that we have that protections, sometimes it's just our ego mind, and only then. And yeah, also I've seen certain practitioners also, who at the very beginning they said they thought they would be able to do that, and so they didn't protect themselves, and eventually it affected them in negative ways, because they couldn't protect. They didn't have the protections to be being influenced negatively by the others, and so then even though they felt they had the ability to do that, And then verse number 6 is, so we try to avoid physically being too close, and we try to distance from the negative or bad friends. And then here is, then we try to be, more closer, and to the positive and virtuous friend, a virtuous spiritual friend, because then through that we can get a positive influence, and again, there are a lot of stories about some of the masters or meditators when they are in the, caves or where even the mountains, because of the incredible compassion, very strong compassion, even the animal, they feel that energy, and even the animal around there normally predictor kind of, even they become very subdued, like they come around there and just like almost like domesticated dog, like your dog, pet, without any fear and without being aggressive, very calm, peaceful. That is the energy they feel. They feel that energy. And that influence them to be more calm, less aggressive. Even the animal feel that, And so definitely we human beings also can feel that, positive and negative, is like, you feel like it's easy to feel love, compassion, bodhisattva, easy to be more kind, compassion, positive when you are around like His Holiness Dalai Lama or around Lama Zopa Rinpoche, And of course, there are many other beings, teachers, non-teachers. When you are around them, you don't have to try so hard to feel calm and peaceful. Normally, we have to try very hard to feel calm and peaceful. But when you are around them, your mind just easily become very calming, peaceful, And then it feel like it's easy to practice the Dharma. To engage in virtues, feel is easier, not so much difficulties. Feel easy to feel kind, compassion to others without having negative thoughts, feelings. That is the influence of just like negative friend can influence negatively, positive friends can have that positive influence. And so that kind of positive influence is very helpful for our spiritual growth, especially at the very beginning when we don't have strong practice and tools. So that is where, so here, that is where verse number 6, when you rely on them, so what is the what is the good friend or positive or virtuous friend that you should rely on, that you should keep, more closer, and cherish more, and not give up. So here it says, such friends are when you rely on them, your faults come to end, when you rely on them through their advice, through their instructions, teachings, opinion, suggestions, through their examples, through their practice, that help us to, reduce our own faults, our own faults, that help us to reduce our faults, and our negative feelings, especially our negative, harmful physical behavior, actions, verbal, harmful, hurtful verbal actions, as well as mental state, mental actions, how they are being reduced by being around them, by relying on them, sometimes through their advice, instructions, advices, sometimes just watching them, observing them, through their examples, by seeing even when other people are trying to be nice to them, unkind to them, cruel to them, how still they keep their love, compassion, how they don't get so upset and angry, how they don't say bad things about those people. Just by observing that, we learn, about that. We learn so much just by observing. Even in my cases, of course, I've studied for so many years with many of my teachers. But some of the best teaching I got that really kind of embedded very strongly, and something that really is through being around and observing them. Many of those times they didn't tell me what I should do, I shouldn't do, and this and that. But just I observe how they do things. I just saw them doing days, weeks, years, months, and somehow just that it ingrained in your mind very strongly. And I guess that is true. I like you hear, the children learn by observations. And not only the children, I think we learn from observations, And sometimes those are even more powerful than the word themselves, Sometimes those, even with the Lama Sopa Rinpoche, I think, of course, not only Lama Sopa Rinpoche, others teachers in my life, but also definitely Lama Sopa Rinpoche, being touched more than the teaching itself, but from his examples, how he practiced or how in everyday life, day-to-day life, every day. Of course, like, for example, I grew up in Kopan. I got the ordination from him. Of course, at that time I didn't know him. I was just eight and a half something. So you just go and then that's all. You don't know anything. I don't know much Dharma. I don't know the language. So anyway, but of course, still we see Lama Sopa Rinpoche, even though we didn't have a lot of spiritual or teaching relation with both Lama Yeshe and Lama Sopa was traveling and very busy, so they didn't have much time in the monastery. Even when they were there, they're mostly teaching for the course for the Westerners. We have other teachers. And of course, you hear incredible stories about Lama Sopa Rinpoche from all the time, everywhere. And sometimes you also observe there, but we don't see him very often, like Lama Sopa go and give the teachings and then he's in his room, doing meditation. You hardly see him anywhere, especially in the old time when Lama Yeshe was taking care of the whole administrations and Lama Sopa was just teachings. And even teaching, we don't go to those teaching, is teaching for the Westerners, and we have our classes and even we go, we didn't understand it. So we hardly see, when we have the ceremony, puja, we see Rinpoches, sometimes we see coming, going, but hardly we see Rinpoche, But of course, we hear a lot of stories, of that. And only later, that I had the opportunity to receive more teachings, much more later, and to see more often, And of course, I had a respect and devotions in Rinpoche. But I think my real true devotion got very strongly after the trip in Tibet. 21 days we're together all morning to evenings. That was the only time I spent so much time together observing from morning to evening, day to day, week to weeks. Before that, you see just here, a little bit here, a little bit here for a short period. And that one really, that one really hit me. And that one really kind of, so that is what, in that trip, I think, I think it affected. Well, there was a lot of learning in that trip, about interesting, when we first went to the first monastery, the second day of the trip, monastery nearby the middle of a cave in Myanmar, and it's small monasteries. And in Tibet, the monasteries are not so clean, especially in those villages, small places, People wear the shoes inside because, of course, cold and all of that, And then people butter lamb and butter are drop here and there, sometimes because people come bring their butters and they add to the butter lamb there, kind of putting that. And then people coming, going with shoes on. So the floor is quite dirty. So, of course, Rinpoche started leading the practice with the prostrations, So we thought maybe he will do 3 prostrations, half, not the full prostration, but the half prostration 3 times, which we did it. And Lama starts doing the full prostrations without any hesitations. I thought it was 3. No, he was doing then 35 Buddha. And then you cannot just watch him do and you not do it, And then you started doing it, and everyone started doing it. Before you were you had the kind of fear of dirtying yourself, making your clothes dirty and yourself in all of this. But after that, then you have no thought of that, And that was the first kind of, to look yourself and how attached you are to keep yourself kind of clean and, whatever that is, not wanting to get dirt, and so anyway, and of course then that became every places where we went, So anyway, so I was talking about being around such beings. You just observing and being around, you learn so much. You learn so much. You get so much positive impact. Sometimes it is quite strong, noticeable. Sometimes it is very subtle. It's not noticeable, but there is some impact in your mind on very subtle level. And sometimes you might be one notice much more later. And sometimes you might even not notice it, but there's some changes. So like that happens, So here, so that is rely on force come to end, and the good qualities grow like wax and moon, and your positive qualities, your Dharma practice, your virtuous practice, positive quality, started to increase, like what, little by little, small by small, So here, cherish such spiritual teachers, such virtuous friend, such positive virtuous friend, even more than your own body. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas, Just as we cherish our body, we take care of it. We try to protect it from any hurt, harm, pain. We try to, take care of it in whatever way, through trying to have a good diet, good food, healthy food, trying to exercises to keep it healthy, to keep it well. We might be doing some other supplementary things, or all different things. We cherish and we try to take care of it very well. So here it says, this is just the body, but with such a spiritual, virtuous friend, it really helps you to develop your mind and true happiness. It helps you to overcome all the faults of all the delusion, afflictive emotions, distraction, obscurations. It helps you to develop all the virtues, positive qualities. It helps you to develop true inner peace and happiness. And therefore, here, also Thomas Humble was advising us to cherish such spiritual teacher or friend, even more than that. And I'm not only one, I've heard many friends and students, who have similar experience like me. That they said they learn much more by being around certain individuals, certain teachers or individuals. Even though they said they learn lot from their teachings, but being around them, they learn even much more, something that really changed their mind, really transform their mind. More than the teachings, but from being around and observing and, through that, just being that. Yeah, so that is why here, I don't know. Yeah, if there is questions, I can take some questions before we go, and then I will see.
Karen has a question.
Yes.
I have two questions, but the first is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of rambling. But so the fact that nothing lasts forever isn't a reason not to experience it. I mean, it's by virtue of these attachments, friends, a spouse who's bound by the impermanence of the vows, which recognize for better or worse in sickness and in health and so forth. In other words, people who care about you. That in the best case, you don't die alone. The classic phrase, he died surrounded by family and friends. I mean, who doesn't want that? So what I find confusing is earlier on when you said if interaction pollutes the practice, how do you integrate the Dharma practice with creating relationships with people that are valuable? I mean, I know, everything in moderation, the middle way. I mean, one solution maybe is you be in the world, you do what you can with your practice, and then make a point of doing a month's retreat every 3 months or something rigorously. Just completely withdraw and, purify and focus and then go back into the world. I don't see how you can maintain the purity of a practice and have a life at the same time? So that's my first question.
It depends on individuals, Of course, there are certain individuals being in the world, still they can, without being influenced negatively by the surrounding around them. But those are rare, and those who have stronger practice and more tools. Those who doesn't have that, then is more difficult. But also here, whether it's here, he's not saying, you all have to leave everything what you are doing and become like Milarepa. Here they are saying that this will be the best. For the beginner, that will be the best, if you can do that. And because of all these reasonings, the advantage of having such an environment in your practice. But in reality, that is not possible for everyone. And so, as I mentioned before, then that is how we find our own way while being in the world, and how we can make best of it, So that is what we can try to do. But and also Milarepa make a prayer, and not only Milarepa, many of the Kadamba masters, they're not attached to dying with surrounded by the families. Milarepa has made a prayers, and that was his intention practice. If you were to die quietly without being anyone around, that will his desire is that, his wish is that, so that he can quietly practice. He can quietly go without being disturbed by people around you, crying, touching, all kind of things. So it depends. For us, because we are very attached to things, we want to be surrounded by family. Even after death, we want to have our statue there, name there, Yeah, that we have. You wish your name is still there. You wish people talk good about you even after your death.
Well,
and because all these are part of attachments. But for so of course, for us, because we have attachment, definitely anyone who has such attachment, we definitely want to have it surrounded by, but that is not always the case. The practitioner like Milarepa or Kadamba master, that is not what they would wish to be able to die without anyone around them peacefully. So that is one thing, but according to us, as we mentioned, because not everyone can become like Milarepa, even you try to be, if you are not really ready, you might regret later, So there is a story of someone who read the Milarepa's biography. He was very inspired by that and become very emotional and very inspired by that. And he felt like he wanted to follow the Milarepa's path. So he gave up everything, he left. And after months, years, his mind changes, Because realization doesn't come like this easily. Milarepa for day and night without sleeping for years and years of hard work that he had those realizations, So not everyone can have that kind of enthusiasm or diligence or ability. And so after trying 1-2 years, then you still doesn't feel like so much has changed. Then you feel like it is useless. And then he became a negative, and he said, not only Milarepa was a beggar, he made me a beggar. Because everything he had, he gave away before he went, because he thought that he would live like Milarepa the rest of his life in the mountain, wandering like him, without any belonging, without any wealth. But he couldn't. After some time, he was unable to. And so that is how he felt. So even someone leave everything behind, go like that, it doesn't mean that. So it depends on individuals. So in practical, is what we can, according to our own situation, how can we make best of it? So that's all.
Well, that then brings me to the next question. I mean, which may annoy you a little bit, I'm letting you know up front. Sorry, but you have the opportunity to be in Santa Fe, well, as long as you want. You could be here 10 months a year and Zoom all your teachings, but you choose to be here 5, maybe 6 months, and then constantly travel. Why do you do that? Because all that interaction, doesn't that pollute the practice? That was your point. I mean, the real question is, how do you keep your practice pure? Because by staying in Santa Fe, it's a great opportunity to do that. Right?
Pure practice, by being in Santa Fe, it might still be unpure.
But you're not moving around. You're not running.
Not about being Santa Fe or traveling or being in a cave. It depends on individual's mind. It depends on individual mind. Someone might be in the world, their practice might be pure. Someone might be in a cave, their practice might not be pure. Whether your practice is pure or not pure doesn't depend on where you are. It depends on the mind of that individual practitioners. In terms of and that is whatever I decide is my choice for whatever reason that I make. Whether I want to go to retreat, whether I want to be in the world, be resident teacher at one place, whether I travel and teach, that would be something, my personal choice and personal feelings.
But your point was interaction pollutes the practice. You said that early on in the talk.
Yes, definitely. It doesn't pollute. We didn't say it pollute the practice. It says someone, a practitioner, who does not have tools, who get influenced by others. That is what I'm saying. When people talk about, you can go and talk about bad things around Dalai Lama or someone, another Lama Sopa Rinpoche, or that. You can say that person is bad and bad. They will not believe it, or they wouldn't feel negative about that person. They wouldn't start to also say negative about that person or feel negative about them. Or someone just go and there is new car and is so wonderful and you should have that. This, if you have, it will make easy this and that. And even someone want to offer them, they wouldn't be attached to that, because someone of all of that, they wouldn't be attached to that. They wouldn't feel the need to want that. That is not. But someone who doesn't have that kind of tools, practice,
right.
Then someone come and keep on saying how bad that, and slowly you start to feel bad about that person. Slowly you started to have anger towards that person. Or someone said, this car and this, and I will buy you and give you, and it's so wonderful, it will make your life easy, this and that, and you feel, maybe I want that, I need that, and then you have attachment to that, and then you want. So that kind of influence, if you are around in not kind of that, then you don't get all this influence. So that depends on, that is where I said from the very beginning, it depends. If you are a highly practitioner, you don't have to leave your home. You don't have to be seclusions. It should be the other way around. But if you don't have strong practice, then for them it's a better environment. So that is all it is.
So the tools you refer to are meditation and contemplation, yes?
Hmm?
The
What?
tools that you refer to are meditation and contemplation, correct?
Yeah, the truth is that you have certain realization, certain understanding, certain practice, that you don't get influenced by those negative things. Yeah. Any? Okay. Is there any other?
Mary Ellen.
Yes.
I just want to say that I, for one, am so very grateful that you choose to travel and teach. So thank you.
Thank you. So anyway, thank you very much again for today's joining. And again, lovely to see all of you. And thank you for joining. And then we do the dedications. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel Bodhisattva that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. May the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewels, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Fearless teachers and assembly of children of Victorious One, Sabbakas and Pradya Buddhas, Victorious Losang, father and son, along with the lineage master, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtues and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the many precious and complete teaching through the explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that's never discouraged. Incomparably venerable Guru, to you I make request. While starving single pointedly for the sake of Victorious One teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to the peace, what a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of blessing of the ocean of three jewels and the great wave of Bodhisattva of children of Victorious Ones, may the smile of reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortune disciples. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a
Geshe.
wonderful-
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.